In other words, I saw a cover-up in progress.
Right.
Yeah, it was a cover. There was no question in my mind that something was being covered up. And now, so in fact, it occurred to me that it seems as if that the Secret Service were more interested in zeroing in on Oswald as being the long shooter, and putting aside all of the other evidence of any other conspiracies. And I thought that the Warren Commission, who was investigating the case at that time, should be notified that these things were going on. Well, when I went to Washington, D.C. on May the 17th, I tried to make a phone call to the White House in order to find out J. Lee Rankin, who was the counsel for the Warren Commission. I want to find out if I can make a meeting with him and go over some things and appear before the Warren Commission. Mm-hmm. But when I went and made a telephone call in a telephone booth, it was a tandem telephone booth, and I was with another agent. The other agent went into the telephone booth next to mine. Now, some of your younger listeners may not understand when I said telephone booth, but that was a long time ago. They had these little boxes on the corner where you would go in there and close the door and make your telephone calls. You would put a dime in there. So they don't know what I'm talking about, but the agent went into the booth next to mine, and I never heard his dime fall. And that's where they came from, dropping a dime on somebody. But anyway, I never heard his coin go through. It would make a ding-ding sound when you put your money in there.
Right.
And so I knew that his purpose in going into the telephone booth next to mine was to try to overhear my conversation and what I was doing. And so I aborted the call. And the next morning, which was May the 18th of 1964, the personnel director, Mr. Anderson, came to me with a smile on his face, said that they needed me back in Chicago. We need you back in Chicago for an investigation of a counterfeiting ring. And so they put me on a plane, brought me back to Chicago, and I was with Inspector McCann. And when we arrived at Chicago, they took me to the office of the United States Attorney, which was not out of the way because I had been through those things before. I actually, this was par for the course, you might say. When they're briefing you, debriefing you, want you to take on an assignment. They said that the informant was in the Secret Service office, and they were telling him what they wanted him to do. Well, after I had been there, sitting in that room, it was 98, 99 degrees in that room. It was hot, man. Mm. And I'm waiting for to get the assignment. In walks Mr. Martineau and said they're charging me with attempted bribery. And I almost hit the floor. Well, I said, no, you know, I didn't know if they were serious or whether this was a part of the investigation or just what. And I'm wondering, and I told him, I said, that's ridiculous. And he says, well, you prove it. Well, you can't prove that you did do something. Now, let me just run this by you. The person who they had making the charge against me was a guy named Frank William Jones, a career criminal. Mm-hmm. This man, since the age of 29, had been in prison some 4 times. He had been convicted of 2 felonies already, and he was on his way to jail because I arrested him twice for counterfeiting money. And that would have been the 3rd felony conviction for him, which means that he never would have gotten out of the penitentiary. So what they did, they dropped his case. They freed him and had him to testify against me. Oh. Now, here is a man who, at the very time that he testified against me, had a case against him in state court for going around. He was collecting money in the name of one of the aldermen, Alderman Charles Chew. He was going to people saying the alderman sent him to collect money for the campaign, and he was converting that money to his own use. This guy, Frank Jones, he had a case on him in state court. Now, this is the type of person that they use to say that I sent him. Now, this is a man that I had arrested twice and had a case pending on to another counterfeiter named Joseph Spagnoli in order to sell a government file for $50,000. Now, they took me to trial on that. Now, let me just tell you, because this is where it gets really interesting, because our Constitution has written within it certain guarantees. None of those guarantees were afforded to me, and that is the basis of my major complaint, is the fact that when I was brought back to Chicago, I requested an attorney. They denied that. Mm-hmm. I requested food. They denied that. They wouldn't let me talk with anyone. All right. Now, when I went to trial, the judge, during the deliberation of the jury, brought the jury out of the jury room. This is after all the testimony had been taken, brought the jury out of the jury room and told the jury this, that in my opinion, the evidence sustains a verdict of guilty. Then he sent the jury back in the jury room with the admonishment that now go back and deliberate using the instructions that I just gave you. So he actually became a juror. Now, that was as unconstitutional as anything could get. Mm-hmm. And but that jury was a hung jury. There was a sister on the jury who didn't go along with what the judge did, and she thought with all her heart, soul, and mind, her name was Anna B. Hightower, that I was not guilty, which I wasn't. Right. And she thought about it so heavily that she went to the press. She went to Channel 7 here in Chicago and complained that they were railroading me, and there was absolutely no evidence that I had done anything but tried to do my job. All right, now, so I had a second trial. This same judge would not remove himself from a second trial and heard a second trial. This same Judge J. Sam Perry, after he had told the first jury that he thought that I was guilty. Now, as the second trial, as the jury is deliberating, the judge puts my attorney, me, and all of the spectators out of the court building and locks the doors. He has the attorney to and locks the doors, saying that the jury was finished for deliberating for the night, and that he was going home, and the jury would start deliberating in the next morning. Now, on my way driving home, I hear a special bulletin on WBBM radio that said the jury just reached a verdict, and it will be read tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. So here we have a case where the defendant was locked out of the courtroom, out of the court building. The door was chained so we couldn't get back in. The only people who were inside that building at the time that the jury would continue to deliberate was the judge, who had already said that he thought I was guilty, a few FBI agents, Secret Service agents, and the U.S. Attorney's Office, and the jury. So, and the jury just happened to be, as a matter of fact, an all-white jury. That's what I was tried before. And they were allegedly a jury of my peers. Mm-hmm. So, as you can see, I didn't have a chance. But I knew what it was all about. I knew what it was all about, and they were trying to silence me, and they feared that some of the things that I had said and believed may become widespread which they eventually did, because rather than just let them railroad me without really giving the public the reason that I thought I was being railroaded, I came out to the newspapers and I defended myself and told the public exactly what I thought this thing was all about. Well, when I did that, I knew that they weren't going to stop with just a conviction. They sentenced me to 6 years, and I figured that I had to make a judgment call. I said that now I'm not really dealing with democratic government here. I'm dealing with something that's fascist, that's not quite in accordance with the Constitution of the United States. So I have to protect myself.
Right.
And I knew that the next thing that they would do, short of killing me, would be to tamper with my mind. They would try to declare me insane, so that the conversation that we're having right now today couldn't take place, because if I had ever been declared insane, you wouldn't be talking to me today, because that would be all part of my record, and I would be tagged as unbelievable for the rest of my life, because I had been treated for insanity. Now, so they put me in Springfield after I had been in Fort Leavenworth and Terre Haute Federal Penitentiary. They transferred me to Springfield Prison Farm. Now, I knew the reputation of Springfield. So prior to me being incarcerated, I hired an attorney surreptitiously in Springfield. His name was John Hausman, because I anticipated that that's what the government was going to do. It was going to send me to a place, try to declare me insane, so that I would never be able to testify or to say anything again with any type of credibility. And so that's what I did. And sure enough, while I was in Springfield, Missouri, in the prison camp there, one of the inmates who was a patient, he was a mental patient there. I worked with him in the kitchen. Mm-hmm. He drew a 12-inch butcher knife on me, saying that I had taken his mop bucket. Now, this is about a mop bucket. Right. This guy's being there treated for insanity. Now, I knew when they assigned him there that when he was in Lompoc in Arizona, in one of the federal prisons there, that all of a sudden, for no reason at all, he had taken a baseball bat and had beaten African-American half to death with the baseball bat, just all of a sudden, for no reason at all. He just went off, and that's why he was there at Springfield. Well, he came after me with a 12-inch butcher knife, and I had a bucket of hot water, boiling hot water. I was working in the officer's kitchen, and he threatened me with the knife, and I told him if he take one step closer, I was going to take all his skin off with that bucket of boiling hot water. I was the dishwasher there in the officer's kitchen. Well, that was a setup also, because what happened, they sent him back to where he was housed, which was in 2-1 East, and they sent me back to the camp. All right, they tried to say that I was trying to discipline him, and that was beyond my authority to try to discipline a patient at the institution. And the chief of classification and parole went so far as to have told me, you should have taken that knife from him, you being an FBI agent, ex-FBI agent. You know how to defend yourself. You know how to take knives from people. That's what you should have done. And I thought that was rather ridiculous. I was an inmate just like him, not an FBI agent. And so they accused me of, you might say, is trying to run the place, so to speak. And on the July the 6th of 1967, my worst fears came to be. Now, Springfield is a 3-way institution. They have a farm there. They have a hospital there for people who need operations, for diabetics and just routine medical problems. And they also have the psychiatric unit.